fullness of the earth below, and all the ends of the earth shall hear him. Sing praise unto God.
So when I hear this story of Jacob in a wrestling match with this mysterious person by the river, this person we are later led to believe is God, I always wondered, who started the wrestling match? It doesn't say. We come into the scene and they're already wrestling. Now what we do know is that when Jacob was born, he was a twin with Esau. And as he was coming out of his mother, Esau was coming first, and Jacob was grabbed a hold of his leg. So from the very first, Jacob is a wrangler, a wrestler, a hustler, and he hustled away his brother's inheritance. His brother was not happy. And now his brother, a successful, powerful guy, is coming towards him with 400 men. It looks like Jacob is going to get what is coming to him. He sends out several large peace offerings, one at a time, in front of him, going to his brother. Now in this morning's passage is the night before he's going to cross the river and go meet his brother. So he's off by himself. Someone comes along and they get into a wrestling match. They wrestle all night long. Jacob comes away with a hurt hip and a blessing. He makes amends with Esau. Esau has mercy, and their relationship is restored. So I want to just take a moment and take a survey in our minds. What were the moments in your life when you learned or grew the most? How, where, and when did you learn your most important wisdom, the stuff that has helped you to avoid conflict or resolve conflict, to live meaningful and fulfilling lives? Most people, I think, would say that they have made very great strides and have grown when they are challenged, when we have experienced some suffering. In high school, I did okay in English. I'm a little dyslexic, so, I had to work at it, and I was just kind of mediocre. But teachers really liked the ideas that I wanted to write about, and so mostly they were pretty nice and gave me, pretty decent grades. I made a B in college. In high school. Then in college, my very first class in college was English 101, and I had an old veteran school marm for an English teacher. She pulled no punches, sending my papers back with almost as much red ink as blue. It was a little hurtful to my ego. I thought she was mean and grumpy and graded too hard. We wrestled all semester. She gave me an F on every single paper except my last one, and every single paper I wrote, but she gave me the opportunity, she said, or forced me, I said, to write them again so that I could bring it up to a C. I finally managed, at the end of the class, it was the big paper for 40% of the grade, and I was able to pull off an A. It was an amazing thing. I actually, mentioned in class that I was going to get somebody else to type it so they could spell check, grammar check for me. So she says, no, you can't do that. You have to hand write the paper so I know you've done it yourself. We wrestled all semester, But by the end of the class, I was a much, much better writer. It's amazing how much benefit you can get from someone who respects you enough to tell you the truth and expects you to work hard and learn. We wrestled, but that old grumpy schoolmarm blessed. I don't know where I got schoolmarm from, some Western, and I think it just fits, I don't know. So early in marriage, I remember learning a new level of what love is the first time when Feliciana got really sick. Now this was beyond the romantic dress up and look good for each other stage and into the in sickness and in health stage. It was a wrestling match, but I came out blessed with a deeper understanding of what love is. Sometimes we may have a hard time at work with a colleague or a boss or with clients, and at the time it's very difficult. Perhaps even a nasty wrestling match, and when we look back on it later we can see, hey, I learned a great deal. I'm a better person because of it. When I was early in my ministry, without much experience, I often became anxious when there was any kind of criticism whatsoever. So once I went to talk to Jay. Jay was an old, wise elder in the church on whatever the latest issue was. I have no idea what it was. I forgot. But anyway, I thought it was a kind of a big deal. And I went and talked to her and asked her opinion, and she said, it'll all come out in the wash. She didn't even think it was an issue that deserved enough to be commented on in detail. She just thought, it'll come out in the wash. That goes well with another piece of information I got from, this old wise wisdom that helps. So she said, if the shoe fits, wear it. If someone criticizes you, listen to the criticism, assess if there's any truth in it. If there is, if the shoe fits, wear it, take responsibility, make the changes. If it doesn't fit, stop wrestling with it. Often we find ourselves in a difficult situation, a situation that we think is beyond our capacity or knowledge to deal with. And we are stretched and we're forced to grow. Those hard lessons, those challenges provide learning opportunities that help us in life. God is in the growth. God is in the learning. We may get dinged up. We may hurt our hip. But we come out with a blessing. And we come out with peace. Since we often grow from suffering, it is very tempting to think God gives us suffering so that we can grow. On the one hand, there are times when, like Jacob, our actions create negative consequences, and we then have a chance to learn, to repent, and to grow from those consequences. But other times, stuff just happens and is way out of proportion to anything we might have done to deserve what happens. The shoe doesn't fit, but we get kicked in the butt with it anyway. There's danger in the theology that God causes suffering. You might hear such theology when you experience a big illness or a loss. It is fate. Down in Peru, when we traveled down to Peru, I heard that one a lot. It's fate. It's God's plan, people say. It was His time. You will be much wiser because of this. God doesn't give you more than you can handle. He's in a better place. We just don't understand God's ways. All of these bits of advice or comfort are trying to make the pain less than what it is. If God has a hand in it, I suppose, we shouldn't feel so bad. We shouldn't let it hurt us so much. Does God send bad people? Accidents and complicated situations? Does God allow slavery so that the slaves can learn from the suffering of slavery? Do children die so parents can grow? And it's quite possible we just don't grow from the suffering. It hurts. It may crush us. And what about the child? Does a child grow from death? Is God killing people so we can learn? If that is the price of wisdom, who wants to be wise? How about this piece of wisdom? I would rather be happy than wise. Now, you may remember the series of sermons I did, a couple sermons on the book of Ecclesiastes. And that's Ecclesiastes' wisdom. He would rather enjoy what he can while he can than be wise. Ecclesiastes has become an auxiliary backup to the gospel for me. Don't beat your head against the wall. In our short life, not much will change. Do the good work you can, but also take time to smell the flowers while you can. To the degree you can, minimize suffering, maximize pleasure, and enjoyment. The gospel of Jesus Christ is a little different from Ecclesiastes. The gospel of Jesus is maximize love, period, end of story. Love takes precedence over both suffering and enjoyment. In the end, love wins. In the end, that's all life is about. That's it. Nothing else. Love always, love wins is important precisely because there is some suffering we cannot bear. Check out Paul this morning in 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 8. For we do not want you to be ignorant, brethren, of the affliction we experienced in Asia. So we were so utterly, unbearably crushed that we despair of life itself. Utterly, unbearably crushed that we despair of life itself. Now this is from the guy who basically started the Christian church. Nothing left. This wasn't a tough English teacher. This was beatings, torture, and a death sentence. It was utterly, unbearably crushing. Love still stands. John McCain wrote about the experience of being tortured in his warning against the U.S. using such tactics. First, he said, every person has their breaking point. But then, your last resistance, the one that sticks, the one that makes the victim superior to the torturer, is the belief that if you were in reverse position, you wouldn't treat them as they are treating you. But more important still, I think, is the answer to why. Why wouldn't you treat them the way that they are treating you? The answer, that is not who God is. God wouldn't do that. How do we know that? Christ Jesus. Check Paul out. First, he identifies God. Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of mercies and the God of all comfort. This is not the God who sends rapists to teach lessons. This is not the God, the author of starvation, torture, and evil. It is the God of mercy and the God of all all comfort. Christ, dedicated to love and comfort, suffered being utterly, unbearably crushed. And yet his love is utterly redemptive and eternal. It rises again. So the God of comfort, the God of all comfort, comforts us in all our affliction, so that we may be able to comfort those who are in any affliction. So God is not the author of evil and suffering, but God is the author of all comfort. She doesn't cause the suffering so that we will learn comfort, but we learn the power of love and comfort nonetheless. 12-step recovery groups are based on this idea. The recovering addict can be especially comforting and encouraging to his or her fellow addict who is trying to whip the problem because they've been there. The veteran can comfort the veteran. The woman who has had a bad man understands the suffering of the woman with a bad man. When I've gone with Feliciana for a blood transfusion to bring her platelet level up, most of the patients in there are cancer patients. It's amazing how nice they are. It's quite different from the airport waiting, or the waiting at the DMV, or the waiting in most any other medical waiting rooms. They seem to realize that life is precious, and they stop sweating the small stuff. Most of it will come out in the wash. They're not afraid of each other. They can comfort because they know what it is like. It is love that doesn't run from suffering. And it's quite beautiful. And there's simple joy in it. And don't get me wrong, we're not seeking out suffering, as if suffering in and of itself somehow is proof of our virtue, proof of our blessing. Part of suffering is learning our limits, learning the value of Sabbath rest, learning when our presence may help solidarity and when to let something go. We are not God. Yet there's something beautiful about being present. There's something beautiful about being present with others when our presence will not necessarily change their suffering. There is a strange power in the humility, in the grace of loving whether or not our love will really lessen the pain. It frees us from having to push, to force, as if we are the ones who need the pain to be less. You are loved even when you cannot lessen someone else's pain. That's the gospel. Love wins even in weakness. If it were just about maximizing pleasure and minimizing pain, then 6 ladies from St. John's would be headed to Club Med rather than down to Brownsville to feed refugees across the river in Mount Morris. And here is where the Christian church parts a little bit with the bifurcation of groups that is happening in today's society. Now, we're all for 12-step groups. We have 4 of them that meet here at St. John's. And we're all for grief groups where you share with others who have experienced similar loss. And we acknowledge there is something about where we come from, our race or our sexual orientation, that is best understood by people who identify with it personally. There's still space for a men's breakfast and a women's mission trip. No question there's solidarity of parents who have lost children, and Feliciana and I have experienced great comfort from them. But not only from them. So many of you have been kind and generous and loving. So many of you have offered comfort, even when the comfort didn't remove or erase the suffering. Love doesn't just hunker down. It crosses rivers to make peace. You see, the church is a recovery group for human beings. For that species that has knowledge of ourselves, of sin and brokenness and division, of guilt and shame, of ignorance and weakness and suffering and death. And we come before a God who offers mercy and comfort, and the God of all comfort, who comforts us in all our affliction, gives us the ability to comfort those in any affliction. We may not know about tomorrow. We don't know about the whole world, about all the refugees. But today, you hungry 1,000 will not starve. We do not know about tomorrow, but we know you have been on a long journey. And you stand at this river, wrestling with God, demanding a blessing. And we're not God, and our nation is not God, but we do know that our God is not a God of extortion or violence, bigotry or selfishness. No, our God is the God of all comfort, the God of all life, and the God of afterlife, the life that never ends. Love wins, love comforts.